Designing in the Open with Una Kravets and Ryan Brownhill.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
This is Roberto. I'm Una. So we're going to be talking about designing in the open. So I met Ryan. We were both working at IBM Design on the Watson platform team, and Ryan is a fantastic motion designer. So he's done a lot of work lately with CSS3 animations and did a bit of blogging on that. He's also a part of a group called the Letter Society, and he does a lot of really great animation work outside of our day-to-day. So it's been a really awesome pleasure to get to meet him and then get to work with him as a developer while he showed me all these great interaction designs.
And this is Una Kravets. She is an amazing designer and developer, and she has welcomed me into the world of sassiness. She started Sassy DC as well as ATX Sass, and is a huge community builder, as well as she's currently nominated for a Net Award, so whoop whoop.
So we're here to talk to you about open source design, and what does this mean? We heard a lot of great talks about diversity today, and one of the other groups that is pretty underrepresented in the open source community are designers. All the time we hear about how can developers work better together, but what we want to talk to you about is how can we get designers working with developers in this open source community? And this is kind of about our story and how we figured out that process. So it all really started with emojis.
So there's a site called Give and Go, which is a site where the community of CodePen as well as the community of Dribble interact with each other. So you have Dribble shots that people in CodePen recreate in code. So it's a really great community and interaction and collaboration between these two kind of normally siloed demographics.
So one day Ryan messages me this picture of this really awesome set of animated emojis. And he's just going on about how adorable they are. And we both agree, these are adorable. Let's all agree on that. So I just remember him looking at like all the different animated properties, and I'm there like dissecting, oh, I wonder what like the border radius and width of the eyes are, while he's saying, I wonder how quickly it's moving in the Bezier curves. So I'm thinking like, this is pretty easy to code. Why don't we just make a give and go together and figure out a design process along the way? So let's try it.
So initially, this is my first project in front-end development. So I was coming with a clean slate. So I wasn't used to setting up to all these modern dev tools. So we're like, hey, let's just create this with CodePen, just like all the other give and goes. So we tried that. There's a lot of copy and pasting and a lot of forking and trying to like be like, oh, I'll instant message you this snippet of code that I changed, and can you implement it? And it just wasn't working out too well.
When copying and pasting happens, it's usually not a good thing, so I thought it was time to graduate to Git. Ryan said he was interested in learning how to code, and I got really excited because Git is just, it's what I work in day to day. I feel like it's such a good tool for collaboration, and it's exactly what we needed. But a lot of time, designers think of this word Git, and they just think like, oh fuck, that's not for me. It's not in my domain. I don't know what you crazy developers are doing on your computers, like T-Rexing on the screens. Like, you know it's true. I really wanted to show him that Git was your friend. I wanted him to like it as much as I did and understand this process, that it could be collaborative, and we could both be working in Git.
But I came at it and I was still here. Oh, F. What is this thing, Git? Oh my gosh, there's so much to set up. What is Node? What is my terminal? Oh my gosh, I'm like hacking into my computer. What is this new workflow? It's like me asking, hey, just open After Effects and do motion tracking. Things I do on a daily basis, but this is not that easy.
I don't know what motion tracking is. So this is part of the reason. Like, this is why we can't have nice things. All right? This is a README file, and I'm guilty as charged. It's my own. It's fine. I've learned my ways. If there is any documentation in there, it's like npm install and gulp. What do these words mean? Like, what is gulp? It's to drink something. What is npm? If you're not already immersed in this world, they mean nothing. It's just an acronym. And this is what happens all the time. People just expect you to come in with assumed knowledge. I remember one time I submitted a pull request just giving somebody some more detailed documentation for getting started. And I told them, like, oh, make sure people understand they need to bundle install. The response I got was, there's a gem file in this GitHub repo. You should just know to bundle install. This is why we can't have nice things. So what I did is I wanted to take some of that the tools that CodeConf provided automatically, and create some kind of starter environment that we could work within GitHub and within Git with. So I set up like a gulp starter repo. It had Sass installed. There's auto prefixer, a bunch of minifications, a bunch of performance optimization so that Ryan or any other designer wouldn't have to even think or worry about that. GitHub Pages was set up just with the gulp deploy task. And then also browser sync. And browser sync is magical the first time you use it when you could just see your screen instantly update as you save in your code editor. Like that's pure magic and wizardry. And I wanted to make sure that it was really well documented so anybody could pick this up without knowing any background and just get started instantly with some pretty good detailed documentation about like CDing into the folder and all the things you had to have ready in order to make this work. All you have to do is type gulp. I got the thumbs up. I thought that was good.
So, like, Una created this giant environment for me that it seemed so easy, but like you could see the README and see all the what's included. And you know, we're like, well, okay, let's try it. Let's try this with Git. And this is where we started. I was like, oh my gosh, Una, I'm breaking my computer. What is all this red words? Oh my gosh, I feel like it's all breaking. I don't know what's happening.
So all that's happening here really is an npm install like module error. Like you didn't have one, and this is what happens. And we see this every day, all the time. It's not a big deal at all. But if you're, first of all, not used to working your terminal, and the first thing you see are red and yellow flashing warning signals, it's pretty terrifying. I wouldn't want to continue working in this in fear that I'm breaking and corrupting my entire system. So I told Ryan, don't worry, Ryan, you're not breaking anything. I'm here to help you. I will make sure that you don't fail. Trust me. I have broken everything before. Like, I have gotten server companies to pay me money because I corrupted my startup kernel and they didn't even know what was going on there. So it's fine. Like, I've been through this. We'll get through this together.
So she eased that learning curve and made every little win a success. So I updated the README file, something very small, but was so exciting because I didn't have errors. Things were working.
And we started a lot of this like really positive reinforcement, all of those little things that were going well. We wanted to celebrate and send a lot of gifts. So get ready for more gifts throughout the presentation. It wasn't just Ryan who was learning from me. I was learning a lot from Ryan as well. So like he introduced me to this whole world of animation styles that I had never knew existed before. And this is one of my favorites that I like to point out and share to people. It's called liquid animation. And it just encompasses the entire object and transforms it with one color. It's really cool. So that was something cool that I learned.
And then I was learning how to take this animation and make it performant and make it work within our interfaces. And it was so fascinating to see such the technical side that I'm not used to seeing. I'm just used to seeing the more artistic liquid animation style.
And I was learning about how to take physics and nature and those interactions, transform them into numbers and cubic Bezier curves, and put those into a digital realm.
And I was translating those curves I was designing in After Effects and making Sass variables for Una to use.
Which is great because I didn't have to do it myself.
I was using things like gulp and Git on a daily basis. I was like adding my files, adding my commit message for the things I've changed, and committing it to the internet. It was so exciting and so rewarding.
And I got to use Ryan as my guinea pig. Like any piece of software, of course there's going to be bugs. Like any process, there's bugs. So whenever Ryan came upon something that he didn't understand or had to ask me a question at all about, I wanted to make sure that it was taken note of so I could go back into the repo and change it. So the next designer that worked on this didn't have to ask me the same question, so that it was already documented for them. One of the things that came out of this was a lexicon of terms. So I remember one time somebody didn't know what CD meant, and that's something that I just assumed. So I made this lexicon, and I had all the terms that somebody might not know if they're coming into this fresh.
And this, because we were working in GitHub, we began to just include everything, all of our design work, and just converse in this place where we're using our code. And I was getting excited about this and teaching other designers. Other people were starting to get interested in what we were doing. It was just so contagious.
And this is 2 weeks after Ryan used Git for the first time. So this is what happens when you don't assume that designers aren't interested in using Git as their own personal workflow system. Like 2 weeks, that's really exciting. We were also getting messages from other people. So this is one of the favorite iMessages I've received. It's from Brittany, who is another designer on our team. And she takes a screenshot of her screen, not even a screenshot, she took a picture on her cell phone and texted us. And it's like this blank page and says, I downloaded Unistarter environment on my own, again, LOL, and added a Sass attribute to change the text to Helvetica, hashtag little wins, ha ha ha, I'm freaking out, okay, bye. That's so awesome. This is somebody who has never coded before, hasn't really been immersed in this world of using code to create visualizations, and they're compiling Sass files and changing variables. So she coined this term hashtag little wins that we continue to use throughout this process whenever somebody had a little win in learning code. And then there's Ryan at the bottom saying yay, OMG, yes, and sending emojis.
So we brought this amongst people who have never touched code before. Our design researcher was getting into the Sass file and translating it into CSS. And it's just that positive reinforcement that we kept giving that fueled this enthusiasm.
One thing that we see these days is a lot of developers go up to designers, very high strung, and they tell them, you need to learn how to code. If you don't know how to code, then you're not going to be able to contribute to this team. And that is extremely damaging. Because like we heard earlier, somebody is just going to get defensive if you tell them they have to do something. They'll come back at you with 20 reasons about why they don't need to do it. They'll come back with good reasons too. So telling a designer that they need to learn code is just going to make them defensive. But if you share your joy and excitement for that medium with them, it's going to make them curious. And when a designer is curious about code, they'll come to you and they'll ask you. And that's where you as a developer can win. They're asking you for help, they're asking you to set up their environment, and you can meld them and get them to help you in whatever way you can. Like Ryan was giving me easing curve variables. That's another task I don't have to go in and translate to do. It just really makes this workflow process a lot easier.
And this curiosity fueled other teams, fueled the whole studio. So people were messaging me, hey, do you have a moment? Can you set me up and teach me this stuff? And because we had that lexicon and we had that starter environment with the tutorial and explaining what CD meant and what the terminal was and what things are doing, it's very preliminary now that I look at it, but it's so essential for those to get started.
So we ended up using GitHub not just between us, but for our entire design team. We had our UI designer on here, UX, we had researchers on here, our project manager was using this. So it became a really essential tool for our entire team.
So what we started to do is change that mental model from GitHub being a dev tool to GitHub being a project management tool. And that's something where we can converse and share our design comps and share our thoughts and ideas all in one location.
And that was great for passback and just understanding what the history of the project was. So a great thing that we did was we used just the drag and drop images to throw up inside of an issue. You have your version, you have your entire history, you can see where something has progressed throughout that issue and have like something to talk about, and you have something to reference right above the text that you're discussing. So it became a really, really relevant tool for us.
And for the non-visual content and our design researchers, we utilized the wiki. And the wiki stored all of our data that we collected with our user testing, all of our information architecture and content modeling. It was the hub for the structure of our interface.
And it's super versatile. So yes, we use this for research, but because you can easily just add pages and change around the layout of your wiki organization, it's something that every team is going to use a little differently. And that's a great thing. Kind of like JavaScript. Maybe not a great thing.
And because we were working with this so much, our issues became so monstrous. There was, 150 issues that we had working on all the time. So we created a label system based off of the discipline, maybe what status it was, so whether it was new, blocked, in progress, so we can see at a glance what is happening in our project.
And to help with that label system, we used a tool called Waffle.io. And Waffle is just essentially a wrapper over GitHub issues. So it creates this Trello-like Kanban board-esque style for organizing and understanding what you have going on in your project. So the project manager can then go in, create issues with a GUI, just a visual interface, assign those issues to people, give them labels. You can see the entire discussion that's going on within this GUI of Waffle. But me, as a developer, I could just go in on GitHub and see that exact same conversation in an interface that I'm more used to. So it became a good tool for bridging the gap between project management, design, and development.
And because our team was growing and people were wanting to contribute more to this code base, we had to create contribution guidelines. So why not include emojis? So we adopted this from Adam, thank you guys, and included it in our commit messages and our change logs so that we can see at a glance for that next release, what is actually being pushed to that release? Oh, okay, I see. There's updates, there's text edits, and that's it. Okay, cool. So you can really quickly, without much hesitance, be okay with that pull request.
So speaking of emojis, how did our project go? Well, that's the current state of our emoji project. We have 5 or 4.5 faces done, but they're really good faces, so it's fine. We may not have finished this, but we did create this entire system out of it, just out of the want to try something new. So we got this out of it, and it's a starter environment that several teams and several other designers within our group and outside of IBM as well have used and adopted. If you want to get started with it, it's just starter.una.im, shorten the URL. It's something that you can send to a designer or someone getting started in coding, and it helps them with this entire set they have set up. Git is installed, you can go in, pull their files, make changes. They can see the diff and see where they can really adapt their code to improve it. So it's not the only thing out there. There's tons of things out there. It's just what worked for us.
So we encourage you guys to pair up with the developer, pair up with the designer, and see what you guys can create. Try to learn something new. And most importantly, have empathy for one another and have fun with it, no matter what the result was. As you can see, we didn't finish, but we came out with a great starter environment.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much.